For 2 at a time to up socks on one needle, you're going to need one needle. One long cable needle. This one is 40 inches long, so between 40-47 inches long is a good length. You don't really want any shorter than that, it will get too fiddly. So, cable needle, circular needle, sorry, and your sock yarn wound into 2 equal sized balls. So if you're very clever and have a very nice set of kitchen scales, then you can weigh these out so that they're of equal size, but I'm not that clever, I don't have posh kid scales, so I wound these by hand and by eye to guesstimate that they are about the same. So, yarn and needle. You take your circular needle with points parallel and facing towards the right. Take your first ball of yarn and with the tail end sandwich it between the 2 needles. Okay, by the way, sandwich it between the 2 needles and the little tail coming forward. Hold on to that tail with your thumb and then wrap the yarn, wrap the yarn from the back up and over the top needle and back around the bottom needle, so that would be 2 stitches, one on the top, one on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then we're going to tuck the working yarn between the needles just to keep it from coming undone. So our 10 stitches on the top needle, 10 stitches on the bottom needle, and our yarn ends coming forward between the needles nice and snugly on there. Just slide those down a bit, but not completely off the needle, so sort of keep hold of those while we do the same with the second ball for the second toe. And this is the wrap method of casting on. So sandwich the tail between the needle points, your little tail coming forward, hold on to that with your thumb and then wrap up and forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and tuck the working end between the needles, and there are all our cast on stitches. 10 on the top, 10 on the bottom for each one, and our tails coming forward between the needles. To start the first row of knitting, you want to make sure that these stitches stay where they are on the front needle. My cable wants to come and join the party here, but I don't want him to. Okay, so hold on to those carefully and pull out the top needle with some cable so you can comfortably knit with it. So you've got a loop of cable on your right and a loop of cable on your left. And tilt that so that the cable now becomes the back and the stitches left on the needle point become the front. Now the working yarn we're going to undo from its position between the needle and cable and let it drop, but we have to make sure that it's dropping and still underneath the cable and towards the back, so that when we knit into our first stitch it's not going to come completely undone. It's anchored underneath the cable. So we're going to knit that and all the other stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Then the bit of yarn that was anchored between I'm going to take that and just flip it over the cable towards the back, just to keep it from undoing. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches just worked. And then on the bottom we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unworked stitches, plus our little tail end that's looped around the cable. So we're going to hold those on, the stitches just worked, still on the needle while we come to the second set. So make sure that the needle is on the top of the cable. We're going to undo that yarn that's wrapped around the needle and cable, and we're going to make sure that it goes still underneath the cable into the back. And then we're going to knit into that first stitch and the rest of them. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm holding on gently to the remaining ones. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the yarn that's wrapped around, I'm just going to flip towards the back. So it's wrapped around that cable to keep it safe. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the bottom, plus the little tail end that's wrapped around. And then we're going to turn all this very gently, clockwise. And you see that our stitches just worked, the bumps are now facing us, and that's going to become the reverse side, or the inside of the toe. So we've worked these stitches, try not to undo them, we've worked these stitches now, and we're going to work these ones next. So in order to do that, we want to get our cable, slide it into these stitches, being careful not to undo any of this. So slide the cable in. Oh, my needle's deciding to get all wrapped around everything. So slide that cable in, just up to the base. I mean, you can sort of start to get those first ones on. Actually, you might be able to, if you've got a nice sliding needle, get all of those on. But what I normally do is I slide them on just to the base, and then I slide the back needle out just to give a bit more room for those to slide on. It's much easier then to slide those on, and then I can flip everything to the back, fully slide out this needle from the stitches that were just worked, so we can now work the rest of the stitches. So here's our loop of yarn that was just hooked around there to keep safe, so we're going to drop that towards the back. I'm going to put our needle into that first stitch, take our working yarn, make sure you take the correct ball of yarn. You don't want to twist your yarns around one another, otherwise you'll end up having to walk with your feet close together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sometimes they jump over one another. 9 and 10. So then we have 10 stitches on the top, 10 stitches on the bottom. So that's our first round, our first complete round of knitting, and then our cast on stitches are mimicking knit stitches for a seamless toe join. That's the tip, that's the very tip of your toe. These will fold over and start to form the toe. Here's a toe. These are the cast on stitches for this toe. So that's how they're worked, completely seamlessly. So that's our first round done for the first sock. Now onto the second one. I'm going to take off that bit of yarn that's over the needle just to keep it from coming undone, and then take our needle point into the first stitch, get our working yarn with the correct ball. Move that tail out of the way. The tails will eventually go inside of the sock and won't be in the way. And we're going to knit those stitches. So 1, 2, move that way now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So all stitches, and then you flip clockwise. All stitches are now safely where they should be. Cast on, first row knit. I'm going to slide that cable up to the base of the needle, pull this one out, and then we can push those all the way on. And then we start the second round. Now on the second round we're going to increase. And we're going to increase into the second stitch from each end on all 4 sides. So because that was the last stitch worked and this is the next stitch worked, keep those close together because this is going to fold to form the toe. Knit the first stitch, and then I'm just going to knit into the front and then into the back for a 1 stitch increase of that stitch. So where we had 2, we now have 3, and then knit all the way to second to last stitch, and then same again, increase, knit into the front and the back, and then knit the last stitch. So where we had 10, we now have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Drop that yarn, pick up the other ball of yarn, that working end of yarn, these tails out the way. I'm going to knit the first stitch and increase into the second stitch with a knit into the front and the back, and continue knitting to the second to last stitch, the penultimate stitch. Here we are, into the front and the back, and knit the last stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. Turn clockwise. Push cable through stitches until you get to the base of the needle, and then you can pull those ones out and then push those completely on with more give. And the reason I push the cable in instead of pulling it from the other side is because if I pull too hard from the other side, all those stitches could go flying off. So I'd much rather push and then pull. Then, as before, move the tail end out of the way. As before, we're going to work an increase row. So we knit the first stitch and then knit into the front and the back, and I gave that yarn a bit of a tug after I did that first stitch so that these 2 stitches are very close together, and then knit all the way to the second to last stitch again. Here we are, knit into the front, knit into the back, and knit 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Very good. And we can start to see our little toe forming. It's just starting to want to fold over and become our little toe. Push the next lot of stitches up to the point of the needle, keeping these stitches close by. Make sure you're not knitting the tail. Make sure that's not twisted. So we're going to pull on that so that this last stitch is going to be close to this one. So pull that yarn nice and tight, knit that first stitch, and then increase into the second stitch to the front and back, and then knit all the way. And going into the second to last stitch. So all the increases occur into the second and second to last stitch. There we are. Knit front, knit into back, and knit one. And you're going to continue doing a knit round and then an increase round until you have the required amount of stitches for your toe. So our little toes are just starting to form now. Fold over at that cast on edge. So you turn it around, push, pull, keep working a knit round and then an increase round, and then you will have your toes. A nicely shaped, seamless toe.